Welcome everyone to this week in Svelte episode 75. We're getting into the hundreds. Like we are more close to the hundreds. I mean, next episode, close to the hundreds than to the 50s. But okay, regardless, welcome everyone and to this week in Svelte. I'm Paolo. I will be your host for today, and today, we have the usual agenda. You kind of had a sneak peek about what we will talk about. There will be no showcase. By the way, remember, I love when there are showcases. So if you have something that you have built around Svelte, please feel free to reach out. Join the Discord, svelte.dev/chat, so that you can reach out and you can say, hey, I built this cool thing. I want to showcase it in this week in Svelte. It can be a website. It can be a library, whatever you want, because we want to hear about you. We will go over the changelog in a while, and we will go over, there will be a small announcement and then a couple of Q&A and discussions. So let's jump right into it. We don't have much, actually. There have been just a couple of release of Svelte 5 during this week, but we can actually check something that maybe it's interesting. So there is a new feature, provide AST node types with internal types stripped out. I think this was basically, I can actually see the details here. Yeah. Basically, okay, there is this was the issue, which is interesting. So if you ever find yourself working with the Svelte AST, so the AST is the abstract syntax tree of Svelte. So this means that whenever you have a Svelte component, it will have a tree of like all the parts of the component, which is a much better structure than just the string. And now you also have typing for it. So it's interesting. Error on incorrect attributes for Svelte body. So if, like in Svelte body, you have some attribute that is not actually meant to be for Svelte body, it will actually error out, which is always good. This is also interesting. As you may know, this was different in Svelte 4, but in Svelte 5, if you try to render something that is undefined or null, it will actually just not render anything. But it was different from for @HTML. So if you did @HTML with an undefined or a null variable, it will actually show undefined or null, but not until 5 days ago. So yeah, that's interesting. Reactivity system remains consistent with removals and ensure reactive graph is fully traversed in the marking phase. Like that's a bunch of technical jargon here, but it all boils down. There were a couple of issue with reactivity. There were those were basically edge cases. If I'm not mistaken, one of these is about reactive. This was a mismatch with the Svelte 4 code, and I think the other one. So basically, Svelte 4 code in Svelte 5 was not behaving the same, and that's why. And I think these, yeah, exactly. So if you are trying to use from store with a at const, so inside the template, you are trying to convert a store to a rune with from store, which mentioned some weeks ago. Um, it was not working. So, I mean, I, you might be call me naive, but I'm always happy when the issue that we need to fix are those edge cases, because like it means that we are getting very close. I know I'm saying this from a while, but you can trust me, it's true. um, so let's go over like the latest release 2 days ago. So this is the last version of Svelte. If you do npm at next, you will get this, and there is this one. So there is an now it will error out if you have duplicate style and class directive. Uh, it's not a huge thing, but basically, like if you tried before to like if you put two attributes that are the same, Svelte will actually yell at you. But it was not the case for style and class directive, and now it is. The host rune, I actually need to explore this a bit more, because the host rune basically give access if you are writing a web component in Svelte. The host rune gives you access to the web component itself, to the instance of the web component class, because inside web component is actually useful to have access to the instance. So yeah, it probably was not compiling correctly during variable declarations. Remove unnecessary update assignments. There was, I think, it was a regression, but basically there were unnecessary update assignment for some, specifically for some class values. And this meant that if you had something like a class with an empty string, like it was crashing Svelte. So it was a good fix. Show error at compile time on unsupported TypeScript language feature. This is also very interesting in my opinion, and it's very good that we have this, because it's part of this. And okay. So basically, the point is, SvelteKit now natively to support TypeScript syntax. That's the point. Svelte is basically doing kind of what Node is doing. If you heard the news from Node 22, you can pass a flag to Node to basically just strip away every type and allow you to run your code. So basically, whenever you are writing TypeScript in Svelte, Svelte, what it's doing is just stripping, like ignoring the types, basically. You can still get inference from the TypeScript language server in your editor, and you can still basically with Svelte check that inside the Svelte component everything is correct with TypeScript. But the difference between these and actually compiling TypeScript, which is a much more heavy process, is that TypeScript is not just removing the types, right? There are some features that TypeScript provide, and they kind of regret that actually modify the code substantially. One example of these is enum, for example. So if you write an enum in TypeScript, and we can actually take a look at this. Let me see. Okay, if we do this, if you write an enum in TypeScript, my enum, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So you can use an enum like this, my enum .1, and as you can see, like this is what it gets compiled to, which is a whole different thing. So my enum actually become a variable, and the variable is actually like you have this very weird thing here, but at the end of the day, basically what all of this is just saying that if you access my_enum at 1 is equal to 0, and if you access my_enum at 0 is equal to 1. So if you do my_enum at 1, this is basically 0. So and you can use it in your code, and it will work. But like, it's a huge change in the code, and this obviously makes the TypeScript compilation phase a bit more involved than just stripping away the types. And since a lot of those things are not actually uh, how can I say? Sorry. A lot of those things are not actually like, by stripping away the types. So that's basically not a JavaScript. Is not a JavaScript code anymore. So it will error out. That's the point. So this is basically, if you are using some TypeScript feature that are not supported, we are gonna error out. So let's move back to here. And I think this feature include enum, I think decorators, because decorators are actually, and by the way, the TypeScript team actually like regrets enums. So there are decorators in JavaScript, but those are also a feature of TypeScript. So if you try to use a TypeScript decorator, because like ES6 decorators are not really into the language yet, so you can use it in TypeScript, but yeah, it's still not. You can't really use it in Svelte because it's not in a Svelte file at least. Ensure imports are above other statement. I think this was actually reverted. I might be wrong, but yeah, okay. I don't know why. I think it picked the wrong thing, because this is actually reverting that PR. So I might need to talk to Antoine about this. By the way, Antoine is the creator of Svelte Changelog. Because like, this is actually the reverting of this PR, because there was this PR, but it introduced some weird bug with Vite, and so it was fixed initially, like the bug that introduced, but then like Richard said, okay, let's revert everything, and then we can think about it when we actually need this feature. So this was the Svelte changelog. SvelteKit changelog, there is just this, which is exclude service worker directory from tsconfig. I think this was done for some type thing. So the service worker directory is not included in the tsconfig, so it will not be type checked by the tsconfig. We actually have some news, because here it is. I mean, there is language tool in general, but what's being published, like this language tool at 4, it's actually this is probably another bug here. Sorry, I'm discovering bug in your tool, Antoine. But this is actually Svelte check. So if you have something like Renovate that is actually providing you with PR to update your tools, Svelte check now has a new major release. There are a bunch of like chores, like bump magic strings, which the something detects script module tag, which by the way is the new syntax that you can use. So instead of context module, replace Svelte preprocess with barebone TS preprocessor. So this is also another thing. Like, instead of using Svelte preprocess to preprocess TypeScript, they are just using the TypeScript preprocessor. And there are breaking changes to Svelte check. So if you're using Svelte check in your project, in your CI, and you want to update it, now you need Svelte 4. You need TypeScript as a peer dependency, and require TypeScript 5 or later. And I mean, I think it's actually probably an optional peer dependency. I have to check. Node 18 or later. There was basically this process browser process is the thing that in Node, like it's kind of the window object of Node. Not really, because yeah, it's not really that. Sorry, but like I mean, it's something that tells you information about the process where the Node process is currently running, and they were declaring process.browser inside this for some reason, and it was removed. This is also like the internal module resolution for Svelte kind of differs now, and .svelte file take precedence over .svelte.js.ts files. This is interesting because basically what this is telling you is that if you are when you are resolving, let's say that you have your application is as something like I want to add a new tab. I don't want to open the one that is already open. Let's say that you have, I don't know, the component.svelte, and then you have a component.svelte.js. You can import these, like you can do import, let me export default something from here, export default, like 43. I can do import component from component.svelte, and like the resolution, but again, it's in Svelte check, which I think it's just Svelte check. Basically, when it's checking if this component has the right typing and stuff like that, when it needs to know which type is this component, Svelte check will actually go and look at the file system, and previously this was the winning file. So because in theory you can import this, like if you have a JavaScript file like this, my stuff.js, you can import, let me export default 44. I can import 40, I don't know, stuff from my stuff. I can import this like this, right? So who's telling that .component.svelte mean this Svelte file here and not this svelte.js file here? And now there is literal code inside Svelte check that says that this is the preferred component, basically, because this should be the preferred component, right? If I do component, I'm rendering, so this is the file that is actually imported, and now Svelte check knows. The language server now forces fewer TypeScript options. So before, when you were running the language server for the Svelte extension, skip lib check was forced to true. Now you have to check it yourself if you want to skip lib check. So this actually like kind of waterfall down because it revealed some errors with .d.ts files, and those were fixed too. So a bunch of changes, very interesting stuff, and we also have a new. We are just bumping Svelte check to v4, new libraries and stuff like that. Okay. We also have these, which is a new version of Svelte, with plugin Svelte, and it's exporting. As you can see, like this is basically something that happened because now skip lib check is false, and they had to import plugin options for that. So that's it for the changelog. I want to make a small announcement, which is kind of always the same, but we will have on October 19, we will have Svelte Summit, and it's the 9th virtual Svelte conference. As usual, If you want to sponsor, or you can do it. The masters of ceremony will be, as usual, Kevin and Brittany. But most importantly, that's what I want to do. You have, I guess, 1 week left. Yeah, it should close in 1 week. So you have 1 week left. If you want to submit a talk, you can just go here. I will not click here because I have submitted some talk and I don't know if I'm logged in. And if I'm logged in and I want to spoil you any talk, I don't know if I will be selected, but the point is, we want to hear from you. Like, I'm very, I would gladly step back and let you talk about your stuff at Svelte Summit. So please, if you have anything to talk about Svelte, if you have, I don't know, an interesting setup, if you have used Svelte extensively in production and want to showcase what you did in production, if you have an interesting library that you want to talk about, whenever you want to talk about Svelte, please submit a talk. We want to hear from you. So this was the small announcement. And now let's move to the topic of today, this week in Svelte, which is the first one I kind of lied about. So the issue is, like, since runes were introduced, a lot of people, like, there was this issue that was open, and to be fair, maintainers also initially thought about a singular $prop rune, and it's because, like, declaring props in Svelte 5 can be a bit, how can I say, repetitive, especially if you need to type it. Because let's say that you want to have some prop, basically you have to do const, and then you have to do the name of the prop, or I don't know, stuff, and then you have to do $props, and then you have to type it again, like this, stuff, which is number, for example, and obviously this needs to be long equal TypeScript to work. So yeah, basically if you do these, you have to repeat stuff here and stuff here. If you want to add, I don't know, another, like, a variable like this, like, it can get annoying, especially if you have a long list of props. Like, let's say that you have 10 props, you have to type every props 2 times, which is a bit annoying, to be fair, but it unlocks a lot of things, and that's what we are here to talk about, basically. Because a lot of people said, what if we could have something like, because in Svelte 4, if you remember, you can do export let stuff. And if you want to type stuff, you can do just stuff string, and it's easier. Or if you want to, like, you could even do stuff like this and get it auto typed. So yeah, I mean, for some cases it seems a bit more ergonomic. But so the idea was, let's do something like this, where you can do $prop instead, and so that you can basically declare every prop in a separate line, just if it was like a variable and stuff like that. So this is an interesting proposal, and I think there's already, like, automated, which is one of it's using Svelte 5 extensively, because I've seen him around in the issue tracker a lot. He actually made a preprocessor for this, but there is a catch. So why maintainers did not went for this? Because they actually, in the initial version of runes, there was both a props rune and a prop rune to do both things, basically. So let's say what Rich Harris has to say about it, because like someone said, I think if you thoroughly explain why export let was not a good solution, more people would be open to the new $sign prop rule. This was a comment, and Rich actually answered and said, okay, so let's go over what was not really good about export let prop. And so again, I kind of lied because in the title of the YouTube video you can say that I say why not $sign prop. This is more a why not export let prop, like export let for prop. But some of those things actually apply also to $sign prop too. And I think those were important reasons for it. So we can go over it and we can see. So first thing first, in a normal JavaScript module, export let foo means that things can import foo from that module, but they cannot change the value of foo. This can only happen inside the module. In a Svelte component, it's actually the opposite. So the only purpose of export is to allow consumers to change the value of foo. So it's completely different, and some people, like if you are used to Svelte, you are probably completely fine now. But a lot of beginners were approaching Svelte and like be kind of confused about why I'm exporting something and then I can use a prop like that. Like it was kind of confusing for some people. And like in fact, like also the tutorials say this may feels a little weird at first. So yeah, that's one bit. We also have the other problem that export let and export const or export function means different things in the component, because export const or export function actually add something to the instance of the component. So you can actually export a function, and basically if you export a function, it's just like if you are adding a declarative function in your component instance. It's just like when you get a div, you can do div.focus, and if you have a component input, for example, you can export a focus function, and from outside you can actually do input.focus on the component, and inside the function you can then focus the actual input. So basically we eliminate this confuser and no longer need the weird accessor through compiler option. If you need to rename a prop, you have to separate the export from the collection and do ridiculous stuff like just like this, which by the way, like it's much easier now in Svelte 5, because in Svelte 5 you can just do this. So you can do const equal $sign props, and then because if you want to expose a class, for example, you can just do class. I can't remember. Okay, you can just do class name, for example, is equal to like as class, basically. No, it's the opposite. Yeah, you can just do this, which is much easier. Like you can just like this is literally how JavaScript work. So you can have the class that is renamed to class name. This means that this component will have a class prop on it, which is much nicer than splitting the thing. And by the way, if you need to do these, never do class with the K. Always do classes. Fight me for it. Prop names must be valid identifiers. So before you couldn't actually do something like this, my class. And now this is perfectly fine. And you can actually use like component my class is equal to this. This might feel weird and there's a discussion going on, but as Rich said, it's best to have the option to do it and then maybe decide to not do it and not being limited by the syntax itself. There are a lot of cases where you get a lot of export let in different places, and this obviously like feels kind of weird because Like if you don't have a prop, you can have a export let, I don't know, ID here, and export let name here. And I cannot use it with the runes. So you can have, and then maybe I have a bunch of code here, and on line 200 I have export let other stuff like this, right? So the fact that props could have been sprinkled around the whole script tag was kind of not problematic, but it was a downside of the API. While now you just have one single props, and all your prop are there, so you can actually search for them quite easily. Let me revert everything back. Let count is equal to doors and state, just so that in the future we don't find ourselves in a weird situation. And let's go over something else. This is also very interesting. And I mean, this only interests you if you are a TypeScript user, but let's be honest, like to this day, most people are TypeScript users. And in Svelte 5, you can very easily do a discriminated union, something like this. So you can have type text and value string, or type number and value number. And you can actually know for sure that like when you check if type is equal text, TypeScript will auto constrain the value, like the type of value, to be the one. So you can do if type equal text, and then value will have the value of string, which is interesting. This is, I think, the big one. Like this is the very big one. If you ever used REST props or props in $$ props in Svelte, in Svelte 4, you have to admit is kind of weird at first. Like it's just a variable that it's inside your Svelte component, and it includes every prop that you have not really declared but is passed to the component. It's a bit strange. So it was fine, like it's fine, but it was a bit strange. You could type it with $ props, but a lot of people actually don't know about this, and that's because actually, like, all of this is already implemented, but it's still inside an RFC. So you can actually take a look at the RFC, and it has a lot of interesting bit about Svelte and TypeScript, like the generics, how to make a generic component, the $ props and stuff like that. And it was just a sort of hack to do it. In Svelte 5, it's very easy because you can just do const is equal to $ props, and you can do A, B, C, and then you can just do rest. So you can name it however you want. It's actually just JavaScript. There's no magic value that you cannot command click to, so it's better. And also, like, you had no way to differentiate between bindable and not bindable props. So today with Svelte 4 you can. So obviously those are maybe minor inconvenience, but like piled everything together, like the maintainers actually decided that a single props was much better than like having the same problems with $ prop. So yeah. But and again, by the way, like I am pretty sure that again, Automated is actually building, or actually have already built, yeah, a preprocessor that implements a version of this rule. So you can basically do this if you want. If you want, you can do this and like use prop with a preprocessor. So you will still have a bit of a problem with TypeScript. You will still have a bit of a problem with the problem that we already faced. So yeah, that was it. So this is an interesting bit. And now let's move to the other Q&A. Let me close everything except this Svelte preview, because again, as you have seen from the thumbnail, the other bit is you might not need $state. There are a lot of dollars today. Yesterday, I jokingly said on Twitter, like, tomorrow there will be a lot of dollars in this week's Svelte. You may join if you want to get rich, not Harris. And I was pretty proud about that pun. But regardless, like, so, okay, let's talk about this. Like, you might not need state. The reason why I wanted to talk about this is because in Svelte 5, we now have a way to differentiate between variables that are stateful and variables that are not stateful. And this is kind of a superpower. Like, it's one of the reasons why runes are good. And this means that, like, very often when we were building Svelte 4 component, we were actually creating variables that were stateful but didn't need to be stateful. And you can avoid these today completely. So instead of using $state, you can in theory actually just use a normal variable in some cases. So I want to showcase some of those states for you, because I think it's interesting. It's a bit more extra mental work while you are building a component, because you have to decide, do I really need state for this? But it's very interesting because you still like can probably get better performance out. Not really a huge change in performance, but it's interesting nonetheless. And it's also to be more precise. I like to be precise. I don't know about you. So let's go over some of these cases. One of the first cases where you don't actually need state is where you want a reference to an element, so, or a component. So let's say that you want this button for some reason. I don't know, you want to get the value or like the bounding box of this component. So you might do something like let button is equal $state, and then you can do bind these is equal to button, button, and then here I can say console log button dot get bounding client rect. I always get this function wrong, and we will see if I did the same today. I can never remember if it's get client bounding rect or bounding client rect. I think it's client bounding rect. I will double guess myself and probably do something wrong. Let's see. So let me remove count. I don't need count here. I don't need count here. And by the way, if you need something like this, I might probably just use an action, but let's see if I did double guess myself. Yes. Get bounding client rect. So yeah, okay. I was right the first time. I need to remember that it's in alphabetical order. Bounding client rect, BCR. So I will now remember this. So by the way, regardless of my my blubbering, the point is you are declaring this with state, but you don't need state. Like, these will work the same, and then I need to. So let's switch to rune mode perpetually, because we know that we want to be in rune mode. So this is not reactive, but this will work the same. So if I click, it just works. The reason why this works is because like this is assigned the first time button renders, and it never changes. So Svelte will actually still assign this. It will never change because like this is just a button. It's not changeable. Like it's not changing. So this will have the reference to this button, and you can use it whenever you want. This changes if you are introducing some block. So if I do if, or even key, like if I do key 1, I mean, this is obviously, yeah. So luckily Svelte actually warns about this. So if your element, the thing that you are binding to, is inside a block, if it's inside a block, this means that more than likely these can be changed. So the key block, if this value changes, this button will change. So if I have a count, for example, let count is equal to $state 0, and then I do count here, and then I also do count plus plus here. Every time I click count, this is now a new button, a new button element. And you can actually show these. I think if you do, probably like if you do something like style, and you add an animation to it, like, I don't know, fade, and we do add keyframes, fade, and we go from opacity of 0 to opacity of 1. So it fades. So let's do fade 1 second. Let's do 5 seconds, so it's more. So now, as you can see, like, it's fading in. Whenever you click, it's redoing the animation, because this is literally a new element. So if I remove the key, this will not refade every time. So now this is always the same element. But what I wanted to show is that whenever you do this, you get this warning: button is updated but is not declared with state. Changing its value will not correctly trigger updates, non-reactive updates. So again, this is also true, like if I do this, like in this case, this warning is probably a false positive, but it's better to have a false positive than a false negative. So if you have count, like, this is actually telling, hey, you need to use state for this, because that can actually change. So, and what I want to show you is that if I remove these, I think it will error out the second time. Like if I click again, no, it will show the old DOM, which I guess that's the problem, basically. I mean, actually, not really, because this is still assigning it, but regardless, it can get confusing. So this is one of the situations where you might not need a state. But also, in general, so let's see the other situation where you might not need a state. In general, like, the thing that I think you need to think about when you are saying, do I need a state or not, is, are you using that variable inside an effect or inside the template? Because the template is still an effect. So if you're using that thing inside a derived or an effect, then you need state. If not, that's not needed. That's the point. So one example of this could be like if you want to have a Boolean variable that flips on and off to change the I should have think about this before. Sorry. Yeah. Let's do, I don't know. I mean, let's say, okay, let's do this. Like, you have this button. Let's say that I have this count, right? Now, this count is a state, but I'm not actually using it inside the UI, right? So let's say that I have this button here, I increment count, and then I want to print count, right? and by print I mean console log. Now, if I want to do this, console log count, like count is never actually rendered to the page. It's not used inside an effect. It's not used inside a derived. So I don't need a state for it. It seems counterintuitive because you may think, like, why should I do this? But this is perfectly fine because if I'm not showing the count anywhere, there's no need for it to be reactive. So I can print, and it's actually 16. And if I click again, it's 17. If I click again, it's 18. Like, this is normal JavaScript. So you can actually do this. This is very important, in my opinion, if you are building a class or a utility, because very often you may think, okay, I need to make everything a state, and that's it. But if you are using some internal state for something that, like, you want to keep track of, you don't actually need internal state. One example of this, for example, is this like it's a bit more involved example, but let's say I want to give you this. Like, let's say that you have this. I have my, I don't know, util.svelte.js, and here I am declaring a class. Sorry, here I am declaring a class, my util, right? Now this class has a state, I don't know, count, which is equal to dollar sign. Actually, let's do this because I actually think it's so. This is actually an example that I showed before, and let's actually repeat the same thing because that's a good example of the things that you can do. So let's say that you have a media query class, right? You want to be able to do new media query, you want to get a media query things, and you want to have the value always updated based on what's the value of the media query. So what you can do is you can have the query, which is $state, and actually, yeah, okay, this is $state. The query result, which is derived.by of sorry, I'm trying to, no, okay, so this is the, rather than the query, let me think about it. Okay, let's go ahead for the moment. So I have the query, which is a state, and in my constructor, I take in a function like query function. I take in the query function, and here I do this dot query is equal to query function. Oh no, okay, that's why I wanted to. Okay, sorry. So this is the query function. This is a bit of a weird thing that you have to do to keep things reactive. But basically, what you want to do is you want to get a query function from outside, and you want to just store the query function, and you want to store the query function, and then you want to have the actual query, which is derived by, and inside derived by, you have this dot query function. So basically, this is the actual query. This will call the function and get the value from the user, and so this will always be updated, basically. And then what you can do is you can init this thing, basically. Now you should do basically this. So you should do $an effect, and inside here you can do window.match media, and inside match media you do this dot query, so that whenever the query function, like the query value changes, you actually get a new match media, basically. So const result is equal to match medium. And you actually want to, okay, I'll show you when we get to it. Yeah, I know, like, sorry, this code looks so complex. It's because it's a complex thing that we are doing. So like it's not super easy to follow, and that's why I don't wanted to show you this example, but I will explain everything by time. Don't worry. So we are doing Windows Match Media with the result here, and then we want to set the value. I'm confusing myself. Sorry. Um, Basically, we want to get the result of the value, and this needs to be reactive. So we want a current, for example, which is a state. And inside this effect, we want to do this dot current is equal to result dot match, I guess. And then we want to do, so this needs to be private because we want to actually expose it ourselves. We actually want to expose it ourselves. So get current is actually the value of is actually the value that we want to get. So we can return this dot current. So I mean, let's start with these, and then I will show you what the problem is and what we can do to fix it. So import from util.svelte, and we want to get media query. Then we want to create a new media query const like LG, for example, and it's a new media query. And here we have a function that returns, I don't know, mean with 300, like, I don't know, 500 pixel, right? Media is not defined. Oh, I need to export it. So I'm passing in this function, basically. This function gets saved, an effect is run. I'm doing windows.matchMedia with the query, and I'm saving the current result from result.match. And actually, rather than doing these, I should be doing I also need to do something else, which is result dot add event listener change should be it should be new match, and then I can do this new match. I think I actually want to do this before. And obviously, I need to store the listener because I want to actually clean it. Listener is equal to this. Listener, okay. And I want to return a function that will do result dot remove event listener change listener. I think I'm getting an error. Is not a function. What? Up.svelte. Hmm, that's weird. Um, so I am setting this query function. I'm setting the query, and then and we should probably use fact.pre. Sorry, guys, I should have prepared this. My fault. So I'm wondering why is this new media query? But I mean, the thing that I wanted to. New match is not defined. Result.match. Oh, I am doing a very bad job. Sorry. Um, I mean, this. I'm pretty sure that this should be derived.by, and this should be query function. Let me console log something. Sorry. This is a function, right? Yeah, it's a function. So I am setting this state here. This should be run again. Okay, initially is not a function. Okay. Ah, I'm really sorry, guys. Um, so you pass in a function. I need to get the value of this function in the query. It seems fine. And this should not run until I actually request these. So if I remove the effect, for example, yeah, this does goes away. And I'm wondering why this dot query. What? Oh, I guess this maybe. Sorry, guys. Okay, I mean, you would know what because I actually I wrote this before, and it's in the ruined repository. So let's just go take a look at that. I don't want to GitHub ruined. I actually wrote this before. I swear I can code. Sorry, guys. Let's take a look. Lib utilities media query. So here it is. So you need to get the query and then derived by, and you get this prop query. Yeah, you're getting the query, you're extracting it. So yeah, I should not run because um, that's a property of current of media query. Oh yeah, this is this dot current. Is this working? I don't know why, like what it was before. It feels weird. Like, what did I had before? Didn't I have something like this? What? So did I add a phantom error? Like it was something. Uh, I will answer your question, Brady. So I just want to say because like if I do these, it's erroring out, and it's giving me this error here. Uh, what if I refresh? It's still giving me this error. But then if I do these, well, okay. I mean, yeah, this is slightly different though. Yeah, okay, because initially this is not a function, while this is a function always. So maybe that's it. Yeah, that might be it. I don't know, but regardless, um, so this in theory should work. I'm kind of scared now, but in the sense that uh, if I do lg, what I'm doing, lg dot current, it should actually print true or false. And I guess this is matched. Let me see rune. Specifically matches. Yeah, guys, I am out of shape today. Sorry. Um, dot matches. So we can see that this is false, and if I move it above 500 pixel, it becomes true. So we can do it, guys. Sorry, I'm really sorry. So let's remove all of these. So we have this thing. The problem now with all these is that if I want to do, I don't know, a global LG instead of a local one, and I want to start these inside my, I want to export this from here, and I want to just import LG directly. You can see that there I get this effect orphan here, and effect orphan is because I'm using an effect inside here, and this runs here, and you can just run effect inside another effect or an affected root. So I could just do affected root and don't care about it, but then you don't get cleanup and stuff like that. So the solution is actually using effect tracking. It's very complex, and just to explain something about state, sorry. But it's still interesting. So what I suggest to do is instead of registering the event listener inside the constructor, you can actually register it inside current. And if you do these, what you can do is basically you can do $effect dot tracking. So you can check if you are inside an effect. And if you are inside an effect, you know that you can run. Actually, not only you can, but you should register an effect, because this code will, not can and will rerun. But you need to do something else. And this something else is that you need to keep track of how many effects you have registered, because you just want to register one effect. So you can have registered register and effects, which is equal to $state 0. And whenever you register a new effect, so you want to, if you are inside effect tracking and registered effects is equal to 0, it's actually if it's equal to 0, then what you want to do is you want to register this effect, and you want to do registered effect effects plus. Oh, come on. Plus here, and whenever the effect is removed, you want to do actually you want to do it inside the effect, and whenever it's removed, you want to do register effect minus. So this will basically register one effect whenever you read current, and after that it will not try to register the effect again. However, this is registering the listener for change. You don't want to actually access match media inside the effect. So what you should do is, if you are registering the effect for the first time, you want to just return the match media there. So we can do let match media like this, and then you want to do these. Oh, sorry guys, I'm really out of shape today, sorry. So we can do, I can do like this. Can be result, and instead of assigning to the state here, we can actually do and here after the effect we return result dot matches. Registered effect is not defined. Oh, this dot, and this dot registered effect, this dot registered effect. And actually, like this, I was about to say you don't need state for this, but you don't want state for this. This dot registered effect. Is dot current, or okay. We can save results here. Nothing state for the moment, and we want to do here. We want to do these dot results, We can get there. Sorry, guys. Ba, ba, ba. We can even remove these, and we can do this. Dot matches. But okay, yeah, I have a typo here. What? Result. Hmm. And I think I want the fact dot pre. Ah, today is not my day. Sorry, guys. I will. Uh, yeah, but I mean, like I actually built these like so that the media query could change. But sorry, guys. Let's actually see again what are we are doing here. Effect registered is equal to 0. Plus plus and listener media query list. Yeah, I'm basically doing the same thing here. Oh, we are doing also matches in the fact. Okay, let's do something. Instead of rebuilding it from scratch, I can actually explain it to you with already built class. So I can get my point without getting too much thing. Sorry, guys. So what I want to get at is that, like, if you see my stupid implementation, I have a lot of state sprinkled all over. But you actually don't need most of the states. So if you take a look at the actual implementation, like prop query does not need state because you never actually use these as an actual state. Like you don't need to rerun something. You don't need to show these anywhere, and you need to rerun something when um, when you are when like this changes because like this can be a function. So if you see in the constructor, you are just getting a query. We are setting this to prop.query, and here we are calling this prop query to get the actual media query out. And this is a derived by. So this can actually change. So if inside this function there is a signal that is changing, this query will actually change. Media query list is actually a derived value where window.matchMedia of this query. So this is the media query list. So we are, whenever this query, that in this case it's a derived, changes, this will rerun again. Effect registered doesn't need to be a state. We are never showing this in any UI. We are not rerunning something when effect register changes. So this doesn't need to be a state. So like all of these was like the general sense that I wanted to show you, and I actually should choose a very complex example to do so. I'm sorry, I'll need to prepare better for the next this week's Svelte. But yeah, this was basically the point of everything. Oh, I've used it with this registered effect. I don't think I did. So I want to like let's. Oh, wow, that was the bug. Sorry, Eric. Yeah, you know what this was? This was because I got unprepared and I started fumbling. And when I started fumbling, I started panicking and I went in panic mode. Sorry, everybody. Regardless, let's address some of the comments. And my issue was for something like query function, you don't need state. For something like registered effect, you don't need state. So uh, think about when you are dealing with state, do I really need state? Like I'm showing these in some UI, I'm rerunning some function when this actually changes. If not, just don't use state. So that was my point. Let's address some some example, something. So one thing that I want to address is yeah, live coding is always a trap. Sorry. Uh, so maybe effect.root. You can use effect.root to make this work, but effect.root is very like you need to be aware of effect.root. So what's happening is that the reason why we have effect.root, so an effect needs to run either inside another effect or inside an effect.root. And that's because effects collect their dependencies, and you want a parent effect to clean all the dependencies out. If you don't have a parent effect, those dependencies will basically leak forever until you close the page. Now, for something that uh, I don't know, there are some situation where you like if it's a top level effect, you don't care too much. But if you are importing that effect inside a Svelte component, then it's not top level anymore. So like it's a bit weird to work with effect.root. And you need to be aware that in some situation, you might really need to clean up effect.root. So this pattern here, which is of using effect.tracking, only registering an effect if we are actually inside an effect. I think it's a better pattern, but it's a bit more complex. Yeah, I had a lot of typo. So I wanted to address this. What makes you prefer private vars over TypeScript private keyword? The reason is because those are actually private. Like you can use them in JavaScript. You can't access them outside of outside of the class in any way. While with the private keyword, you actually can access whenever. And there's also another thing, which is Svelte will compile that in a better way. Like Svelte is actually changing your class so that if you're using a private identifier, I mean, if you're using a public identifier, it's creating getters and setters for you in the class, which means that Svelte will actually, if you use the private var, it will actually compile that for you. I hesitate to use pound because I worry someone might need to access a private var for some reason that I can't anticipate. The point is that if you are making something private, is because it needs to be private. If you think that someone could have access to that, you probably want to make it public, just public, and they can access it. Because, like I mean, even if you use the private identifier from TypeScript, they will still get a TypeScript error. So I will still not do it anyway. Yeah. Yeah, this is why we use typing in the civilized world. I know. I mean, using like be able to use TypeScript in a Svelte REPL-like environment was one of the reasons why we started building Svelte Lab. So now it works. Show us. It should work. Let me see. No, it's not working. I don't want to debug this further. Sorry. So don't take a look at this code. You can watch this because I actually went over this in an older version of an older episode of This Week in Svelte. So it's isn't underscore a private? Underscore was kind of a how can I say, a convention. Like before, we actually had private variables. It was a convention that if something started with underscore, you shouldn't access it because it's a private variable, and this means that there's no guarantee that it will work in a future version. But it's a public thing. So if you want to have something truly private on a class, you can use pound. Is not a matter like how often do you really need a var to be private outside of like security and banking. It's not a matter of security. Like the class being private is not something that like, oh, the user can see it. It's a matter of who can change that variable and how it's changeable. Because remember that in JavaScript we don't have types. So let's say, for example, that you want to make sure, let me delete this monstrosity. Let's make another example. So class, I don't know, double, right? Let's say that you want these and you have the original count. Let me remove this import from here so that we don't get the error. And obviously LG is not defined. I just want to show you. So let's say that you have this double and you have this function, like you have this class because you want to take a number and multiply it by 2, and I have always multiplied by 2. You can do constructor and you get the number in, right? And then you can have the state. I can do like double is equal num. So this dot double. Oh, guys, I can't type. I am. This double is equal num times 2, right? So now this is a public identifier, and this means that whoever uses this class. So if I import, and I need to export it probably. Yeah, I'm already exporting. Import double from util.svelte, and I create a new double. Const double is equal new double 3. Obviously, I can show double dot double, I guess, and it's 6, right? But the problem is that since this is JavaScript, I can literally assign double to whatever I want. So if I do on click and I do double dot double is equal to banana, this will actually change. Now, obviously, this will not be reactive because we are not using state. But if I console log double dot double here, you can see that the log that we get is banana, and banana is not a number. So what you can do is like the private identifier allow you to have more control over what that variable should be. So you can do, for example, set double like this and get double, and you can return this dot double. And when you set new value, you can actually do like if number dot is none plus new value. If not number dot is none plus the value, this dot actually new value like this is double is equal new value. So I'm checking if it's not a number, and if it's I don't know how TypeScript will behave in this case, but how JavaScript will behave. But in this case, when I try to change to banana, it I don't know why. I think it's because it's literally like, I think it should be number um I mean I'm really out of shape today, sorry. Type of new value is equal to number. So in this way, I can be sure that no matter what, I will always be like, I can do like this, and no matter what, if you type something, like if you try to change double, uh, it will be the double of the value. So if I try to change with banana, like it's still 6, it doesn't change. So that's why you need a private identifier, not because of banking and security. Um, Enrico, like, I mean, it's fine. It's just like life happens. Like, so he like, it doesn't have too much time during his weekend's belt time. So like, not time. Like, I mean, at this moment, like, it doesn't have too much time, and so that's why he's not hosting too much anymore. But from time to time, you will likely see him. Don't worry, he's good. So, guys, it's been 1 hour and a half. I'm sorry. I basically kidnapped you to watch me write bad code. I'm tired. And I promise next time I will prepare better. And thank you very much. I hope you learned something in the first hour. And I hope you enjoyed today. And I'll see you guys next time.